Great.
Claps or sign one time. Excellent. Remember. Oh yeah. Well, it's quiet.
I
We
know.
have to.
I know.
I'll take it as a win. Thanks for being in the room. We've got a lot of content to go over. Really excited for our speaker that's going to be going over shift tactic 5. Question: who's been reading the book? Okay, next week I really want to see more hands. Okay, people. It is a really, really easy read, I promise, and we're literally just taking it one chapter at a time. But for those that haven't, get caught up. We're going to be moving into shift tactic 6 next week, obviously, because that's what we're doing. It does. It's 5, then 6. It's just math. Okay, let's start with Mr. John. Come on up.
All right, well, we are still in a multi-offer market that's been going crazy, going bananas. And so when I keep hearing everyone talking about the shift, I'm like, where? I haven't seen it happen. Maybe certain areas, certain price ranges at different moments. Offers are coming in fast and furious, so I want to make sure whether we're on the listing side, it's our listing, or whether we're on the buyer side, bringing in an offer with multiple offers, we're prepared how to deal with it, how to handle it. Okay, so I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. We had a couple of interesting things happen over the last couple of weeks regarding multiple offers, and so. First thing I wanted to mention is that offers, you want to make sure whether you're the listing agent. If you're the listing agent, you want to make sure you kind of put out parameters out there to all the agents who are saying they're going to bring in offers, right? And so I'm going to go over what those parameters are. You want to mention those in a little email to them and say, we got multiple offers going on. Here's something I want to let you know about, right? And if you're the buyer's agent, you want to make sure that you are doing these things, so that the listing agent can't just toss yours to the side and say, well, it wasn't complete, or it wasn't in writing. All offers must be in writing. You can't go with verbal. So if somebody says, well, I told him I would I would up my offer. Well, then why didn't you? Okay? They've got to be in writing. We want to make sure that's clear. Because I hear accusations of this all the time. I said I would pay more. Now, I recently got a complaint from the DOL against one of our listing agents who did nothing wrong. Our listing agent only accepted an offer, had some verbal communication with buyers, other buyers' agents. Letting him know what was going on, and one of those buyers' agents wrote their buyer up for a certain price that got the property. It appraised for more, and they still filed a claim to the DOL saying they think they paid too much for the property, and that it was the listing agent's fault. So it's going to be a hard one to explain because there was nothing done wrong, right? So anyway, the offers must be complete and in writing and signed. So you always want to make sure, there's 2 parties that are the owners, both parties have to sign the offer, right? 2 parties who are making the offer, both parties have to sign their offer. And then also number 2, the seller may choose any offer upon evaluating the price and terms. I emphasize evaluating the price and terms, right? Has nothing to do with anything else other than maybe their ability to qualify financially for the property. But I don't like love letters. I just got to say that right out. I don't like love letters. I know some agents who buyer's agents who use love letters all the time and says that they help them get their deals accepted and that kind of thing, but that's highly discriminatory in my mind's eye, right? Yes, Chris.
If I'm a buyer's agent, what risk am I running by spending a love letter? it seems to me that the discriminatory practice would be on the seller, if on anybody.
Well, it could be on both, you know, so an example that just happened the other day was that one offer was, multiple offers had come in on a listing. And it was our listing. And one of the offers had a love letter attached to it that was talking about these, you know, this family that was going to be living in the home and all these things. And so when that agent was notified that their offer was not, you know, they were going to go with a different offer, they hit the roof and started accusing the listing agent of discrimination based on their family. And you're discriminating, and unless you take our offer, we're going to file a discrimination charge, you know, with the Human Rights Commission and all this kind of stuff. And so I didn't know that that was going on until later. And then when the agent told me what was going on, I said, send them a cancellation of that counter offer you sent them. You know, the one who was making the discrimination charge. Send them a revocation on Form 36A, revocation of that counter offer, get it out of there. The other one's for more money, take the one that's for more money. That's going to give your seller the most money, right? Which she did. Could that person who threatened discrimination file discrimination? Sure. Anyone can. Anybody can file a discrimination charge, but there better be something to back it up. And in this case, I don't see anything that could back that up. But seeing the love letter is just like, I don't know, creepy to me. But
Another question, sorry. So what I've been seeing lately is an agent actually creating a video to go along with the offer. The video explains, hey, Chris, my buyers are so-and-so, they do this and that. Their offer's so strong, blah, blah, blah. All that. Would that be considered? I think it would be.
well, if it's talking about the people, right? I get nervous. If it's talking about their qualifications financially, I'm okay with that, right? So if we're talking about price, terms, their ability to qualify for their loan, those things are all fine. But any conversations about the people, I just think that's inappropriate personally.
So because I would like my buyer's agents to do something like that, leaving the people out.
Yeah. Now I was in I don't remember what it was, but I think that Dennis Branch was with me at it. We were at a legal thing one time, and some lawyers were talking about love letters. And Annie Fitzsimmons, who's our Washington Realtor Hotline lawyer, said, I don't have any problem at all with love letters. I think they're great. We kind of shrugged that off. That's what I remember. I remember thinking, this is like one of the only times I've disagreed with her. But I disagreed, and I agreed with the other lawyers in the room who were expressing their concerns about them. But whatever it is, we want to probably, you know, if we're going to be allowing our buyer to write a love letter, we probably want to make sure you let them know, do not put anything, you know, discriminatory in there. You're talking about family and talking about those types of things, or races or nationalities or anything else. Just deal with, what did I say, the price and terms and their ability to qualify. That's it. Financially qualify. So we just want to make sure we maybe even put that in writing when we send off an email to the other agents. Let them know we're concerned with getting our seller the best price and terms, and that the buyer is the most solidly qualified, and we don't want to hear anything else.
So then talking about their job.
I think that's fine. because that's qualifying, yeah, because that's financial qualifying. So I think that would be.
What if their job falls in a religious category?
They're working in
Well-
nonprofits. They work for a
Okay,
This is all stuff I've been getting.
yeah,
I'm getting text messages, video.
yeah, well, it doesn't matter what the job is, really, as long as they can prove the solidness of the income that's gonna come in, right? But, yeah, so anyway, so I just wanted to mention that it's not something to just ignore and not think about. It's something that I think is, has the potential to create problems in this one situation that it almost did create a problem. Because the agent rightfully so, our agent, rightfully so, was fearful of getting a accusation of discrimination. Who wants that? And the sellers didn't want that. They don't have to deal with that. But what they should have been doing, is making an outright statement right at the beginning. We're going to look at best net for the sellers, their net proceeds they're going to get out of the deal, and what the qualifying strength is of the buyer, financial qualifying strength is of the buyer, and that's all we're going to look at. And then keep things that way as best you can. I know it sometimes gets out of control and they start just talking, but that's, and I would, and again, if I was a listing agent, I would say no love letters, please, in my remarks. Yes.
So what if, as a listing, being afraid for one, as a listing agent, you receive love letters, you don't have to show them to your seller because they're not technically part of the contract. So it's not ethically obligated.
Well, the license law says that all communications to your client must be disclosed to your client. It says all communications. It doesn't say all offers. It says all communications. The license law says that. So I would say yes, but I would also say that you can have a discussion with your seller and say, if you get a love letter, do you want to see it? Here's the pros and cons of that.
Probably good to have that, right?
I think so. Okay, so then upon upon notification of competing offers, buyer may revise their offer up until the seller's acceptance of another offer. Once another offer has been accepted by the seller, then it doesn't matter. But up until that time, your buyer who's competing to get the property can always change their offer. They can always amend it and change it, right? Up their price, change their terms, whatever it is that you see could be an issue. Those things can be done all the way up until the seller has signed an acceptance of one of the offers. So you always want to keep that in mind and make sure your buyer is aware that they have that ability to do that. So the communication is so important, and I would do the emails so you have it in writing to other agents, letting them all have basically equal notice of multiple offers. And then fourth is that a counter offer from the seller can be revoked by the seller at any time before receiving written notification of acceptance by that buyer, right? They got the counter offer. So the situation I just mentioned, that happened, the revocation of the counter offer was received by the buyer's agent in 1 hour before they were gonna sign off on it. Too bad. Which one hit first, right? The revocation hit first, so that counter offer was revoked. It's gone. They can cry all they want, but it's not going to change it. So sending that 36A revocation of offer or counteroffer form is something that we need to make our buyers aware of too, because the seller's counteroffer, even though it says 2 days, is open for 2 days. can be revoked in an hour. We want to make sure our buyer knows that. You know, if you like this kind of offer, sign it now before the seller changes their mind because they got another offer they like better. So we gotta be on our toes when there's multiple offers going on like that, right? So I'm going to be doing a class on Monday at 2:00 on Form 35E, which is the Escalation Addendum. And so I think that would be good to kind of go along with this, to know the best ways to handle that escalation addendum. Okay, you notice I didn't say escalation clause, because that doesn't exist. So 30 years ago, we called it an escalation clause because we had to write it in. We also called the financing addendum a financing clause because we had to write it in. Okay, well, those days are gone. We have various addenda now. We shouldn't be calling it the financing clause or the inspections clause. We should call them what they are. Each one is an addendum. And the escalation addendum is an addendum. It's not a clause. An addendum is a name that specifically has meaning legally to what this is. Something that applies to the contract at the time of formation. Clause indicates something that's added or written in, or I don't know, why people are still saying it. But monkey see, monkey do, I guess is how that goes sometimes. But it is an escalation addendum. I'll be going over that Monday at 2:00 for about an hour. It's on Zoom. Not here. It'll just be on Zoom. Okay.
Any questions for John? Christian? That's me. I'm the tech moment. Hi, guys. Hey. So we have some new things that came available. So I'm going to click through them real quick. They shouldn't be surprises because they're things we've talked about that are coming. The first one is this import wizard. This is the one that I told you I was probably way more excited about than you are, because most of you don't import your own databases. You call me and I do it for you. And this makes that easier. But let's say you are one of those agents who isn't having their open house leads automatically put into command for whatever reason. And you have to go in and hand import those things. And maybe they're on a handy dandy spreadsheet. This means you no longer have to add those to the command specific import spreadsheet first with all the million tabs of things you don't need. What this means is you can take your CSV as you created it, make sure your CSV has headlines, first name, last name, those kinds of things. And you can take your own spreadsheet and import it directly into command by using the import wizard, and it'll ask you what column on your spreadsheet matches which column in command. And yes, the admins are excited and nobody else cares, but we're stoked about this. And what I'm telling you that it will save your admins hours of time and you can pay them to do other things. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we have so you're saying a CSV file, well, let's say.
An Excel is the same.
Yes, so
Yes.
if we do this, should we be doing this by a barcode then and have to scan that barcode so that it will automatically run?
If you're going to have them scan something and add their information, then you should be sending them straight to a lead capture form that will put that stuff straight into command for you, and you can skip this stuff altogether.
Not all the fields are available.
That's true. If you are going to be really picky about what you want in it, then yeah, you could send them to but you don't necessarily need a QR code.
I'm just thinking when I do my open houses, I have an assignment on paper. So then that means then
I would like for you to at least switch to digital, yes. There's a lot of options on what that could look like.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could send them, if you wanted something more specific than what the lead capture form has available, you could send them to a Google sheet or Google form that they could fill out, that then you can make a spreadsheet, but then, yeah, it exports as a spreadsheet if it's in a Google form. So if you want more information, that's the way that I would do it. Yeah, Cool. Next, who's played around in designs before and therefore their designs is full of a bunch of mess and gobbledygook and untitled things? You can bulk delete that now. So you can go in and like get rid of all the junk you don't need, which is a good idea because most of us probably aren't using this search designs field where we can go find the things we've titled. And if the things are titled what we'd actually like them to be and we've gotten rid of all the junk, that'll work better. Also, I discovered recently that when you get inside to designs in that space where like you're actually in it as opposed to this like first page, you can actually make folders for your designs. So you can have a like listing stuff folder and buyer stuff folder, which I'm finding I like a good folder. I like everything in its place. It made me happy. But yeah, bulk delete is available. It makes life simpler. Yeah.
So then in that you said you can create a folder. Can you also take these designs and if you have a favorite one that you say, this is my buyer folder, can you move those to that?
Yes. Yeah. The new quarterly magazine is out. So if you are using that, it is available. These are the 3 different covers available. So you can either do a 1 quarterly magazine, put it all together, or it's designed so that you can easily break it up into 3 and send it out once a month. I am aware that it came out later than any of us would have liked. That feedback has been heard. We have been made promises that they will be closer to on time. That's as significant as that promise has been. So we'll see what happens. Some other things coming up next. So we're going to see a few enhancements. How many of you are aware of the ILC vote that happened recently around KW Cares and KW Kids Camp? Kind of what I thought. So there was a vote basically to make the default donation on a transaction to international to be $10 a piece. So that's what you're seeing here is that change is coming where when you do an opportunity, you go to submit your commissions and that little pop-up that already comes up. The default option is going to be $10 as opposed to 0. Few things available to you. One, if you're totally cool with $20 of your transaction of your commission going to the international versions of KW Cares and KW Kids Can, you leave it alone, you ignore it. You have the option to up that amount or change it in either direction using the other button. So you can go in per transaction and adjust it with the other button. There is also a spot where you can change the default in the back of your system. I'm going to show you how that works next week so that you can go in and make this whatever you want. So if you were like, hey, I donate to the internal KW Cares Puget Sound, I don't also want to donate to this, but you don't want to accidentally like just be clicking through all the buttons or have to go in and adjust it every time. We can make your default 0 if that's something you want to do. And that will make, if you have a default set, this whole pop-up button is going to like not even show up.
So who sets the default? Like you make a change and you want that to be the default. Oh, we do.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to show you how to do it on the back end. There's some, I just don't have screen share up today. So I'm going to do it. This won't pop up before. This change isn't coming tomorrow. We are getting some updates in the referral network outlet as far as how we can filter. And you'll be able, I believe, average listing price and sales volume are up already. At least they were in mine when I was in it yesterday. It's possible I have it and you don't. So if you don't, it's coming. But this is the big one I want to talk about. You're going to be able to sort by languages, which is really exciting because we see it all the time. Is there an agent who speaks German? Is there, an agent who speaks French? Right. You'll be able to look it up. But here's what's important to me is that you all go into your white pages profiles and make sure your languages are current so that you get those referrals if you're an agent who that would be applicable to. Cool. We talked about this last week. Still coming in the next week or so is being able to filter by HOA dues in your consumer searches. Important to note, it will always convert to monthly. So if if it's paid yearly or quarterly, and that's how it's expressed in the MLS, it's going to automatically convert to monthly here. So it might not actually be paid monthly, but that's how it'll show up pricing wise. Cool. Today I'm teaching Get Off the Real Estate Roller Coaster. It's my favorite of the 4 classes that I teach. We're going to talk about goal setting and tracking your conversion rates and all of the different ways that you can really track your business and look at both the lead and lag measures and what that can do to help increase your production and make it a little more, not sustainable, but consistent. So that's the conversation we're having today at 1, plenty of time to go get some lunch and come back. And yeah, that's what I got for you. Any questions for me? Cool. Let's go. All right. You guys know it's National Teachers Day? Yes. Okay, so reach out to the people that have loved on you. Bring that up because I'm going to do a little story time real quick before we bring up Miss Jessica Ward. But Mrs. Ward in 3rd grade, it got me to love when people read these stories, so it made me think of her. Okay, anyway, I digress. Story time. Shift tactic 5, or tactic 5 in the shift book. So the effort you give to converting leads must match the effort to give generating them. Most entirely miss this. They look at their numbers for appointments and assume their lead generation just isn't working. The bigger truth might be that their lead conversion isn't working. While agents regularly talk about generating leads, they rarely give equal discussion to converting them. Why? A lack of clarity. Most see them as one and the same, but they're not. There's 2 different efforts in your lead gen activity, lead gen actually being the first. And then you say you've generated a real lead. What you're saying is that you have a name, contact information, and an appointment with a motivated person. That actually is the second effort of the process called conversion. Until you've done conversion, you don't really have a lead. You may have an inquiry, a web hit, or a suspect, but you don't have a prospect. Don't fool yourself about this. You can't say you have a lead until you've talked to them and set an appointment. That's kind of what we're going to be going deep with. So Jessica, coming up. All right. Okay, perfect.
No, I brought my number.
Excellent. Look, it's so perfect. So Jessica, introduce yourself for those that don't know.
I'm Jessica Ward. I've been here since I got my real estate license in 2013. So,
Been a minute.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to go deeper on this specific tactic because it's something that you and your team are really good at or intentional, right? So I mean, really kind of just take it away. I know you had a lot.
Sure. Can I draw a little diagram?
Yeah. She doesn't want a purple marker.
I love a good diagram. So the book talks about capture, connect, and close. And then there's a little silo over here that is cultivate. And they have an arrow that goes like this. But I'm gonna say, I think it goes a little bit more like this. And then you can kind of bring people back through. So it's more like a flow where you keep people in your network longer term. So you look at MREA, there's that funnel and then the silo and then closing and then your 33 touch, right? So it has kind of a similar flow chart. I think it's really, really important to cultivate a super, super long time. We have a few different tools for that.
Jessica, can you break down
Yeah.
for everybody what those 4 words mean to you, your interpretation of them? So
Sure.
what's a capture?
Capture is any kind of lead capture or suspect capture, right? We don't know what they want. If it's, 2 o'clock in the morning in August, we get a lot of these like Facebook leads because people are scrolling because it's too hot to sleep, and we'll get these click-throughs. And of course they give us contact information and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not, but really all that is telling us that they're awake at 2 o'clock in the morning. It really doesn't tell us anything else, right? But we keep those people in a cultivation process until they tell us not to, like literally forever. Everybody stays in our database forever unless they ask to be removed. Then we have a deliberate connection process. that is part of our cultivation, but not all of it, right? And then you really are always closing for the appointment. I asked my team yesterday, hey guys, what is the purpose of lead generation and lead follow-up? And everybody had a different answer.
Oh,
I was like, the answer is appointments. The answer is appointments. We're always going for appointments. It's nice when we're doing the cultivation in the meantime. So capture could be anything. Could be your open house leads. It could be an automated capture. It could be anything. I actually took a quick list. I can bring that list of all of our lead capture tools. So I was thinking about yesterday, we have, our signs, we use quickly codes. So somebody's standing in front of a sign, they text a number, they get the price of the house and next open house date, and I get their phone number. Nice, gets used, right? And then we have, our seller websites, and our buyer websites, and our mobile apps, and we have our Facebook ads, and Elena runs Craigslist ads, and we have print advertising, and we have postcards and mailings, and all these different things. But every one of them has a lead capture piece as part of it.
Okay.
So it just keeps putting people back in.
so what's cultivating?
Cultivate, we have kind of a toolbox for cultivating. It means a lot of things. I'm gonna make a list here. Cultivate is, for people we know, it's DTD2, right? Our quarterly phone calls. It's a 33 touch. It's a 12 direct. You don't use these in layers, you use one or the other. We do a 17 days of pain,
Oh, nice.
which is 10 days of pain, a 7-day break, and are we breaking up? Spoiler, we're not breaking up with them. We're asking them to break up with us. Otherwise, they'll continue to hear from us forever, just at a different frequency. We also have, let's see, a clear lead flow and follow-up cadence. And that's written. And along with that is an accountability plan. Which is 3 times a week, Elena sends the whole team a list that says, here's who's on our team, here's how many follow-ups are due this week, here's how many new leads they have in their listing. We're never supposed to have a new lead in our pipeline because everybody should be called right away. So if you have a new lead, that's a problem. It tells you how many hot nurture and watch leads you have in your pipeline. It tells you which phone calls are expected. So you have 42 phone calls this week or whatever. Tells also the whole group sees if anybody's behind on anything, right?
Parents CCTV.
No, she does that manually from reports, yeah. Doesn't take her very long, but she also copies my coach if I'm behind.
Whoa.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep.
She likes it too.
Well, let's just say it's effective. So let's see.
So let's finish the words though. Let's
Socially.
connect.
Oh, sorry, I got them all. I thought I got all of it. What does connect mean? Connect is all those things, right? These are our connection toolbox, right? We have client events too, right? We're doing a baseball game, right? There's a bunch of things, but that's all a set schedule, and all of that is getting executed on. A lot of it is automated.
It's a system, right?
It's a system. Yeah, it's a system. And there's, it's pieces that are layered on each other. For instance, part of the 12 direct is a newsletter, part of 33 touch is a newsletter, right? So it's just the number of layers that each person gets based on how connected to close they are. But, we also do a home value drip. And a neighborhood watch or listing alert.
No one can spell me a home value.
Home value drip is going to be specific to their house. Neighborhood's going to be what's happening in their neighborhood, their zip code. So when you add all of this up, I think we have 65 or 68 touches a year for normal communication. So,
Okay.
To every single person from or you just talk about the people that that you've met?
the people that we have had a conversation with, we would say that they are qualified in one way or another. They may be qualified in that they said, at some point I want to move, at some point I want to downsize. that qualifies them to us. Now, that doesn't mean we're running around showing houses or anything, right? We're not setting an appointment with them. They're not ready. But we're gonna continue to maintain our relationship.
And the difference, just like Heidi was asking, the neighborhood watch, is that when you set it up in command, in the neighborhood newsletter? So what's the difference with the home value drip? How is that is that more?
That's
To
a
be
quarterly
specific, that
CMA
means-
about their house
selling
versus what's
personally
selling
to-
in their neighborhood.
Okay, okay.
How long did it take for you to develop this system?
It took us 2 weeks to develop it, and it took us a year to learn how to execute it.
Okay, so go deeper on the execution part. So it's not just you on the team, right?
No, there's
What's your
four of us. Myself, Larry, Sherman, Isabel. We have Elena, who's our operations person and guru of all things.
Mhm.
And then we have inside sales, outside sales agent in the Philippines.
Okay,
And so for those folks who aren't like prospects, we just have a phone number and email. He's the one who works on it.
got it. So he works with a very cold.
Just super cool. Yeah. Or the like, we talked to him once 3 years ago and haven't been able to reconnect. We have a separate user account in our database that we call Archivy. So if anybody ever sees an email from Archivy, that's our archive.
That's amazing.
And that is where we let new agents practice their calls, or where, if he doesn't have enough calls to make it in circle prospecting or whatever, he'll go dial Archivy. But a couple of times a month, we'll get a call back. Hey, Art, I'm ready now.
Yes.
And Art will say, great, I'll have an agent reach out this week. So lots of people do believe there's a person named Art in our team. Art is an administrative role, by the way. We never market this as an agent role, but they can send listing alerts, all that stuff. So they still get the whole agent relationship experience, but with automated system.
With art. Okay, I like that. Couple things that I want you guys to think about as you're transitioning this to your business for implementation is understanding what a word means to you. Okay, so let's use appointment as an example, because that can actually be interpreted a lot of different ways. So what does an appointment mean for you and your team?
We're prepared to take a listing or a buyer at that
Oh,
time.
so it's not a copy date.
No.
So how would you qualify a copy date?
You don't necessarily have to qualify copy date.
Okay,
Right.
that's what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah, a copy date is relationship building. You want to be
Yes.
having those
Nurtures,
face to faces, right? You want to be having that meeting with somebody who wants to downsize in 5 years because they're curious about what's happening and what I think will happen next. That's the best relationship building you can get. I'd rather do that any day than go settle and compete for a listing, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably why my conversion on the long-term nurtures is much better than on the short-term nurtures.
Okay, so go deeper on that, because this is unique. So did you guys hear? She's actually better at the long game, right? So we have to share the example of your open house, right? So one of the first.
Literally my first open house, 3 days after I got my real estate license. I still remember it was a condo building next to Harborview Hospital, super neighborhood, right? I get out of the car with my balloons and I hear gunshots and I hit the deck and I'm under my car and I realized it was not gunshots. All my balloons went up into the holly top tree I parked under and exploded. So I get to my open house, muddy, covered in tree bits and broken balloons. No one comes. In the last 5 minutes, in walks an upstairs neighbor. Just wanted to see what that floor plan was like, because in that building, everyone was unique. And she had one of the bigger units. And she said, well, you've been working so hard here and doing this open house, doing the open house for another agent here. And she said, why don't you come up and see mine? I know I want to move at some point. So that was 2013, April 15th, April 13th of 2013. And we closed her at the beginning of 2020. So long-term nurture.
Yes, so the way that she has her systems going and the way she's training the people in her org is there's no such thing as a bad lead. I really want that to go away from our vocabulary. Even when they put like, don't call me as a first and last name, you know how fun it is to call them, like, is this don't call me? Because you were on my site over the weekend, right? So you can have fun with it, right? There's a person behind that. And it's a way that you can kind of engage in them and poke fun at the fact that they didn't want you to call them.
It's fun to ask too, hey, what's important about not calling you?
Yeah.
Are you
Oh my
an agent?
gosh.
Sometimes they're agents, super fun. Yeah.
But it's about systematizing this part of lead gen, you guys, because you can't expect, how many people are in your guys' database?
Ooh, active leads, 1480 something, and then Sphere on top of that, I'd have to add everybody up individually.
A whole lot of heartbeats, right? There's no way that they could be in front and talking to everyone without automation. This is why it's important that we create systems, and we can have systems in all of our business regardless of the size, because we've got tech on our side. When we talk about leveraging, we have to leverage with technology first, and then we can grow into leveraging with a heartbeat, right? When we're leading with ROI. So I'm curious, how many of you guys have at least a 33 touch campaign up and going to some extent? Oh my gosh, that's really good. Okay, how many of you guys do D2? I can't,
DT.
that,
Oh, yeah, and I even wrote it wrong.
I know.
okay? So it's not about, it's about implementing at least one thing at a time. Yeah, all of this, right? She's got people that can help her implement. If you guys are a one-stop shop, right? It's about what you can do right now to be able to create that piece of system that's automated for you. And remember that lead gen isn't just lead gen, it's the follow-up. And that's where a lot of agents miss the opportunity because it's what you've mastered, right? It's the long game and building that relationship.
And can I add that if I could go back in time, I put the cart before the horse in a really big way, and I generated a ton of leads, and paid for a ton of leads, and called people and paid for ISAs and hired help and did all these things with none of that on board until 2018.
So what
So
was your
I-
aha to actually correct that? I mean, how did you get from leading that way to then correcting in 2018?
We had a big uptick in organic leads, which are a little easier to close and tend to convert a little bit faster. And we realized that we weren't executing a good follow-up and an organized follow-up system. And then we were growing from being just me to me and a couple more agents, and wanted to make sure that we standardized something. So we got in a coaching program specifically around this. And that was a 12-week program. They covered lots of other things. It moved a little too fast for us to implement any of the other things. This was what we implemented, and that paid for it all.
And you're getting results, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us, share if you're okay with it. What's your guys' pipeline look like?
Gosh, I have like 16 listings committed for the rest of this year so far that, aren't active, but they're committed. I'm not counting buyers right now, so I couldn't even tell you there. Sherman and Larry each have a few listings coming up, a few buyers coming up. So they all have like enough leads in their pipeline that have identified their timeline to meet their goals, which is, I'm super excited about. So now it's just up to us to convert those, right? So our current focus is our scripting and making sure that we're converting. We have the relationship, but we're running into competition more than we have in the past. So we want to make sure that we're prepared and converting at the highest possible level.
So it's skilling up, right?
Skilling up, yeah. And we're getting competition not just from other agents or discount agents, but also from iBuyers and the power buyers and the investors and the 32 people that call them every week on the phone to, say they'll buy their house.
Yeah.
So we're just getting a lot of like that noise that we have to make sure we're heard through.
And by knowing your numbers, you understand where that opportunity and skills is at, right? It's the conversion like that you mentioned.
Yeah, our problem is not getting to the kitchen table. It's always just making sure we get there.
Love it. What questions do you guys have for Jessica on this?
What's an organic lead?
Oh, an organic lead might be just somebody who arrives at your website and creates an account, or somebody who was referred by, basically it's unsolicited, right? So it's somebody who was referred by a past client. They arrived to us organically. We didn't go out hunting for them. We didn't know they were coming. When you get an organic lead, they come find you. They're usually pretty motivated, like, ready to go. This is like, hooray. Right? Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you, Jessica. Again, you have really kind of
Edgar's
this
got a
question.
question.
Edgar.
Hey, Jasmine said never delete anybody. So what if that person buys a house with another agent?
I've closed them later when they sell it.
Is that
Oh.
standard?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because their
That's
agent
weird.
stops communicating. So they don't get a home anniversary card and they don't get a quarterly CMA, but I'm still sending them.
So if you go to a listing appointment, and you get they interview you, they go to somebody else, they're still staying in your system.
Unless they're going out of state.
So do you update their address and all that? how that went.
Congratulations.
Thanks for not using me.
Friendly, I mean, they had a reason. I believe that they, made the right choice for them at the time, whatever that was. So I don't think that I'm necessarily the right person for everybody.
But I have a two-part question. One, accountability plan, is that for each member on your team?
Yeah, it's like a grid, so it has all of us down one side, and then it says across the way, here's how many are in your hot watch pipeline, here's how many phone calls are past due. Here's if you have any past due tasks. Here's if you have any, we have like a written guideline of here's exactly where everything should be. So for instance, an unqualified lead, that's getting the 17 days of pain. Our agents don't get to try to convert those any more than 17 days. There's a reminder on there, you have one person over 17 days. That means you have to kick it to the ISA. Get it off and work on the leads that can be converted in your pipeline.
So the second of the three-part question. So if you were an independent agent and you have this system in place, would you be effectively able to do this with the automated system? One, okay. And then I have been starting to implement this myself, but I'm wondering if other people are doing this. It is really easy. I touched base with someone that I've been keeping contact with for 10 years because she was very young. She was my son's girlfriend in high school. So no money, no job. But I figured someday she'd buy a house and they'll be with me, right? Kept in touch with her numerous times, had her on my list. I was messaging her the other day because one of my things came back. And she goes, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't tell you I bought a house because my best friend became an agent in the fall. And I'm like, the first thing in my mind is like, maybe I should take her off the list. I'm like, no, I'm not taking her off the list because that girl is not.
She didn't ask you to take it off the list.
I'm not taking her off the list because that young girl probably might not stay in the business. You never know.
And we also all provide different value.
Right. But I'm also wondering, do you do a program for real estate agents in state and out of state to stay in touch with your referrals? Do you also do, I was considering adding, when I see people's homes for sale in my neighborhood that didn't work with me, and maybe I didn't interview for that listing. I'm starting to think about doing a welcome to the neighborhood emails and then adding them on to a touch program for that as well.
We do that within where we like farm, like I'm on 2 HOAs, so I do that kind of thing in the neighborhood I'm in. And then we do also have a whole campaign and a whole similar system for potential agents. And that's part of our steps for every one of these campaigns. Asking someone if they know someone who wants to get into real estate is part of that.
And do you have a service provider campaign?
No,
Okay.
no, they're in our database in a different way. They go on everything else the same way.
So I'm wondering, beyond being service providers, they are people.
Yeah,
They
they
have
just go
houses.
into our programs the same exact way. We do refer them, and we like to let them know when we refer them, and we use Homekeeper for that. So Kristen knows about Homekeeper. So we send people through Homekeeper, and then like in our newsletters, we refer back to that. Like here's 3 people from our list, which you can find on our website, and here's what they do.
Caleb.
Just to piggyback on his question back here, I've had 5 or 6 or so agents, or clients that I'd sold houses to, and then they used a friend for the second time or something, and all of them came back to me after they used their agent, because I didn't take them out of the list, number one, and number two, that person didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, and sometimes I go on an appointment and I'll lose the appointment because they decided not to sell or it wasn't the right time or they're uncertain about something or whatever. And then I just stay in touch and 3 years later they're back, right? Once there was a for sale by owner, I was super tired of just following up on. So I put in the mail a seller disclosure statement, a listing agreement, and a self-addressed stamped envelope. I told him to send it back when he was ready, and it came back 3 days later. So,
Well played.
so yeah, that's going to be a new piece of my for sale by owner follow up on like this regular basis.
That's really smart.
Felt presumptuous, but it worked. Whatever. I only did it once. It worked, right? So.
I love it. Any other questions for Jessica? Perfect. Okay, so rule of thumb, you guys, anything we do in our business more than once needs to be systematized. So taking the time to slow down and work on your business while you're working in your business is going to be very important for us to be able to ride whatever storm we may be coming into, okay? Perfect. Thank you, Jessica. Okay, just some announcements before we all go about our merry little ways. Mimosas for moms. Okay, so this Friday, we will have mimosas put on by the culture committee in this location, right? From 10 to 11:30. Come grab some food and hang out.
President will be through this process.
Like,
Fruit and pastries.
That would be great.
Oh, they're welcome. Okay. There'll be pastries.
just alcohol. Lots of alcohol.
Let me know.
Okay, we have Bread Day that's next week. How many of you guys have registered for what you're going to be participating in?
Raise your hand.
Love it. For those that haven't, please jump on and get registered. We've got a couple different options for donating time or food, correct? That's one of the options. Yep. So make sure that that's time blocked accordingly so you guys can participate. It's a really, really fun day. We have financial peace being taught with Dan and Cheryl. It's going to be May 19th from 6 to 8 here in the large training room. How many of you guys have taken this? It's a phenomenal class if you haven't. Really suggest you put that on the growth plan. If it's not there, just plug into this one. It's a great opportunity. And then this is the class that John was talking about, which is not a clause, it's an addendum, 35E. That is via Zoom, so you don't have to worry about where you're sitting to do that, or you can jump onto our YouTube station and look at all the recordings from stuff he's done before if you've missed any of his classes. We've got Coaching Corner back for the quarter. We've got all the dates available here. They're also on our intranet, if I'm correct on that. We have one today. It's going to be from 1 to 11 with Miss Rita.
1 to 2.
Wow, just go with me on that, guys. Go with it.
Yeah. Super.
She's like, nobody was here. And then we've got Miss Summer Holloway teaching. It's all about the follow-up. That's going to be this Thursday from 2 to 3 here in the large training room.
Diagram of the line?
Yeah, it does. And then we have a regional DEI meeting. It's going to be a mastermind on the 11th. This is going to be via Zoom as well, so it won't matter where you're sitting to be able to participate. But that will be with everybody in the region. So Idaho, Alaska, Oregon, and Washington will be there. And then so you want to build a team with myself and Miss Nicole. A great class for those that are either going to be working towards building that team or have already done it, to be able to sit in a room with others wanting to learn and develop that side of it, right? So in the MRA, we've got the 4 models. The very last one is that org chart model. And KW has literally a whole program built out for helping you guys learn how to and develop an org chart that's sustainable. We do a really good job of teaching you guys how to do sales and things like that. And we realize that learning how to hire and lead are a completely different group of skills that we also want you guys to develop. Whether you have a team of 1 and an admin, or you want to have a team like Dan and Cheryl downstairs with a lot of heartbeats, learning how to have proper leadership skills, people in talent in-house, and learning how to hire is very important. The CV process is put there for a reason, because Gary realized that we sucked at hiring, right? If you're going to take the majority of agents, it's a skill we really haven't developed. So being systematic and purposeful and intentional with everything in regards to what you're learning before you just start hiring. We see a lot of people that want to hire seasonally, meaning it's the summer, they have a lot of business, they want to have help. So they hire when they're at their peak, and then they fire because they don't have the foundation to keep them in place, and they didn't hire because they were able to leverage that at the time. So we've broken it down into different levels of a team. We'll go deep on that on the 16th. Really excited to partner with Nicole on that. CMA workshop with Miss Anna. She has new stuff regarding appraiser changes and information. So it's always very timely and not a class that's really on repeat because of that. It's going to be digital on May 19th from 1 to 3. Please register. I don't think there's a cap on that because it's Zoom, right? Okay. So make sure you guys are continually staying up to snuff on all the changes with that. And then the disc taught by Julianne Gibson. This just helps us understand how we operate as a person, and then how we can help communicate and understand those we are working with by using something like the disc. It's just another personality assessment. So it's really, one, it's fun. And two, it really kind of helps you build that level of trust and rapport with those in our lives. That's going to be May 26th. And then ESO in Idaho, it's going to be in Boise, my old stomping grounds, taught by Cody. It's going to be May 31st from 9 to 5. For those wanting to get into expansion, it is a mandatory course. Okay, hopefully I'm done talking. Almost. Oh, this one's legit. How many of you guys know Linda McKissick? Okay, if you don't, get to know her by going to this. So it's Quantum Leap, first off, an amazing class that kind of helps you, not just on the business, but in life as you as a person. We're bringing it to the region. It's going to be at Point Ruston? Man, this is getting bad. On the 28th from 9 to 5, really suggest that you guys register for this. It's a huge power ad, and this is open to the entire region. So it is going to fill up. So register before you can't. All right, we got Mega EduCamp the 23rd through the 24th. We still have early bird priced tickets, which is good. And then it's your opportunity to be in rooms that will make you feel dumb. And again, that's a good thing. We'll have a note before you go as we get closer to the event as well. Oh. Okay, we made it. Make it a good week, you guys. Let me know if there's anything that you need. Jessica, thank you for your time and sharing, and congrats on executing that at a really high level. It's all watching you and your team. And then let us know if you guys need anything.